Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. Could I get a roll call, please?
Commissioner Laird.
Present. Present.
Commissioner Mill.
Here.
Commissioner Nicolason.
Here.
Commissioner North.
Here.
Chairman Friel.
Here. And could we do the Pledge of Allegiance?
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen.
Okay, we'll move on to the approval of the consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion to approve made by Commissioner North, second by Commissioner Nicolason. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. We'll move on to board appointments. Do I have a motion on the board appointments?
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion that we approve the board appointments as on the agenda.
Second.
Have a motion by Commissioner North and a second by Commissioner Laird to approve the board appointments. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, there's been way more controversy on these particular board appointments than I've seen previously, and I'm pretty disappointed about it. And I think that each of these 4 individuals might be great appointees, but there's been enough back and forth that it's just a really bad place to be right now. You know, I was unaware that, I think we were all unaware that there was a policy for board appointments from 2006, and that, as we discussed at our July 5th meeting, it applies to all boards. That would include the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Board of Appeals, P&Z Board of Appeals. Paragraph 4 of that policy says the decisions shall be made by the board after due consideration of the candidates at a public meeting. I think that procedurally we haven't been doing it right, that we haven't done this right in this instance, and that we need to be doing it right in this instance and moving forward. So I will not be supporting the particular appointments in this case. I don't think that we've given due consideration as board members of these individuals at a public meeting.
Any other discussion? All right, before I call for the vote on this, I will abstain from this one, as I have throughout, as one of the candidates in there is one of my employees. So once again, I will be abstaining out of the vote tonight. Commissioner Mill.
Yeah, just, I agree there's been a lot of internal controversy on this and a little bit external. I'm sure all 4 of them may very well be good. I know 2 of them are already on there and are doing the job. After looking at our policy, though, I have concerns as well. So I don't believe I'll be supporting these nominees at this time. If they're selected, using the process that we do have, yeah, at that point, if they're the selectees, then I'd be probably supporting them.
Commissioner North.
I guess I have to say, I don't, what is it that we need to do, is I guess what I'm wondering, to get this straightened out. Just vote on them here, is that it, or?
Well, we
I'm
put them
not sure
on
what
here
the
so they could
procedure
be
is.
voted on tonight, so you
Right.
can make a decision whether to move forward with them or not.
Well, I thought they were well-known to everybody on the board, on the chairman, the commission. Two of them have been on the board for 3 years each. Mr. Schenk is he's a great guy, he's being considered for something else that I hope he gets. I don't know any of the other three. Scott Baxter, but it says, has he been on there before? So he's the only one who hadn't been on there? I mean, I interviewed them all, and that was what we presented to you guys. So what is it? Do you think all of the commissioners need to interview them now, or what? I guess I'm not following what is being said here.
Well, I'm very disappointed in your stance on this, because we did interview all the candidates that submitted their names for these boards. We actually had 4 individuals that had applied for the Board of Appeals. We had 2 individuals that applied for the county positions on the Board of Planning and Zoning, and we had 2 positions that were open for that. We had 3 individuals that applied for the position from a municipality, and out of that, we went through the interview process and we chose the one that we felt answered the questions the best. 2 commissioners were the ones that made that decision. We presented that to the full board. We actually had a discussion on this, and at that point in time, we agreed that that's the process that we were going to do and that we'd look at it in the future. So this tells me that we're not going to do things the way we have, that we did, in my opinion, we did follow what the policy said. We did present it. We have done this in the past where we've actually gone through and approved people, presented that, and then voted on them, and it's usually in a consent agenda and not on an individual one. So we're setting a precedent that's different. To me, this looks like the good old boy system. You don't like who we picked or who was chosen, even though that was through a fair interview board and a fair process where everybody got asked the same questions. And it's very disappointing that you're not willing to support the individuals that actually interviewed the candidates. Instead, you're making a decision that you don't like them because they weren't the ones that were chosen by you.
Yeah, and Mr. Chairman, I really don't understand this, quite frankly. I don't understand the issue, because when you asked me to be on this board, I said yes, or on this, you appointed me to go and hear this, and appointed Dave. And then, in fact, it was discussed with Mr. Milne, and he said he couldn't do it. He wasn't there on a Wednesday, and I suggested that he do it. And so when I went in, I didn't know any of these people that were applying, and we listened to them all, and I didn't think there was any issue about the people themselves, because both Matt Mitchell's a doctor who's been on there for 3 years, is really a smart guy and understands the rules. My understanding was Chad Zeal has been on there for 3 years, and I did go back and look at a meeting where these guys were operating, and one of the things I did hear them say is several of them said that they didn't have a clean copy of all these rules from the commission at that time, and were wanting a clean copy so they could know what all the rules were that they were passing. So there seemed to be some confusion about that. But when I looked at it, I'm looking at guys that have one on a board. I don't know why, but they have the experience, and they don't have much of a learning curve here. And so, Mr. Schenk, I thought he was a fantastic pick, and he wasn't, there wasn't anybody even in the running against him. And the other two, the same thing. They had to appoint two people. Matt Mitchell was between him and one other gentleman who was, I thought, a good guy, but didn't have any experience. And so that's why I thought Dr. Mitchell would be a good guy. And that's all there is to it.
You certainly can't do the good old boys club.
Commissioner Nicholas.
Thanks. I don't know if Commissioner Laird and Commissioner North heard me say that these might be the candidates that I would select. I told you that it is nothing about them. It's not a good old boys network for the gallery's purposes, so for your knowledge. But also for you commissioners, it's not about the individuals, it's about, we have a policy, and I think at our July 5th meeting, there was a unanimous recognition that we haven't been following it in every case. Now, sometimes we have been. You'll recall that we have followed this. We have engaged in
Yes.
this with all five of us.
Well, what I don't understand though, Peter, is,
Commissioner Laird, you're interrupting me.
excuse me,
So what I'm trying to say, as an attorney, you would well know that if we have a policy, we ought to be following it, and that if we're not, we ought to have a good reason for it, and I don't think we do.
well, let me just say this. Isn't the fact that they're on the agenda to be appointed by all of the commissioners satisfy the rule?
Yes, it does.
I thought
It sounds like there's an echo in this room. Actually, it doesn't, and I think that the language is crystal clear that says after due consideration, this board, after due consideration of the candidates at a public meeting, this board makes the decision, and I think it's clear that we haven't followed the policy.
So is it your theory that we should put this back on the agenda and have all of these people come in and be interviewed by the commission? Is that what you're suggesting? I'm just trying to figure out where we go from here, if that's, because I agree that the commission needs to appoint these people. And I don't know what, I'm looking at the county attorney and finding out, are we following the rule here or not?
So, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Laird, it does state in the policy that the full board at a public meeting will consider the applicants and then choose them. I think it was interpreted in the past that a interview panel of less than a quorum of the commissioners could make a recommendation, and then the board would act on that recommendation. But that only works as well as everybody agrees. It appears, now that that process maybe is not going to work, we can refine that policy if we want to continue with a panel, or
Or were we doing something wrong in the way that we consider these people to begin with? We were just doing what had always been done, is what I thought. I mean,
Right. I think it was an interpretation in the past that if a committee made a recommendation to the full board and they accepted that recommendation and approved it at a public meeting, that complied.
Okay, so
And
you're
that's-
confirming that the process that we did follow on this is what we have done in the past and has been acceptable in the past?
From,
Okay.
and I'm fairly
Okay.
new here again now,
Yes.
so apparently that
Yes.
has been what has happened in the past.
So if that is the case, we are following the procedure that we have done in the past. If we choose to change that policy, then we need to change it for the next interview process, not for this interview process. This interview process was done the way it has been done. We did have a subcommittee of the commissioners actually do the interview, and then we're bringing it forth for the entire board, just like we have at every other one, where we usually put them on consent agenda and approve them blanket. So, am I speaking incorrectly?
I'm saying that works if everybody's in agreement, but apparently not everybody's in agreement with the process that was used. So we have a commissioner recusing himself, and we have two in
Yeah.
favor of the appointments and potentially two that aren't. So I don't think that the process is going to work in this particular instance.
Well, it's pretty sad when we change the process and we change the procedure right in the middle of it, when we followed everything that we've done in the past, and we've done this. Makes me very disappointed in the way that we are following this and doing things.
Chairman.
Commissioner Mill.
So we have followed the procedure in the past. Just recently, we had an airport board appointment. All 5 members conducted it. All 5 members voted in it. And so I don't see any difference where the planning and zoning board is any less important than the airport board. We all agreed that was how we did it for that one. And I believe, Mr. Chairman, that is in fact one of your stated goals as running as chairman, was that we do this, that you would institute a full board selection process.
Commissioner Milne, I agree that we all sat in on that on the airport board, but you know as well as I do that in the past, that is not what this commission has done. We have not interviewed every applicant. We have looked at them and we've agreed, and we actually had a full interview of every one of these applicants. There's nothing wrong with having a subclass of commissioners that actually go through and do the interview process and present those names. What that tells me is that you don't recognize our ability to choose. Instead, you want to say, well, we don't like this, and so we're going to throw this out. This is setting a very, very poor precedent for how we're going to do things in the future. From now on, if we have 2 commissioners sit in there, then you're going to be challenged on every decision you make. And it doesn't matter what you think the policy says. We did follow the policy. We followed the procedure, and we presented these names as being the best candidates that we had to choose from. And those are the ones that were brought forward. If you can't
No,
support...
I do believe it is actually what matters is what I think it says. And I think we're not following the policy that was in place when we did the airport board, what is currently in place now. If we want to follow the policies, then we follow it. It doesn't matter what in past boards have done. This is a completely new, separate board.
Our county attorney has just said that we did follow what the policy currently says.
If everybody agreed. Not everybody agrees.
Well, I call for the question.
So it's been called to question, so we have had a motion made and seconded. We've had discussion, so all in favor?
Aye.
And those opposed? Okay, we have 2 in favor, 2 opposed, and no tiebreakers, so motion will fail. Move on to the public hearing portion of this. I now declare the public hearing open for the consideration of Resolution 20-23 fiscal year 2023-24 budget. The hearing will be conducted in accordance with state statutes, rules, and the Natrona County Commission and other applicable laws. May we have a report from Madam Clerk?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Resolution 20-23 is for the approval of the proposed budget for the 2023-2024 fiscal year ending June 30th, 2024, in the amount of $50,533,804. This figure includes proposed budgets for Natrona County's component units, which are the Natrona County Library, City County Health Department, Community Action Partnership, and Natrona County Fair. All publication requirements have been met, and with that, I will stand for any questions.
Any questions by any of the commissioners? Okay. At this time, I'd ask those individuals who wish to speak in favor of Resolution 20-23 to please approach the lectern. All right, at this time, I'd ask those individuals who wish to speak in opposition to Resolution 20-23 to please approach the lectern. There being no one to speak for or against Resolution 20-23, I now declare the public hearing closed. Can I get a motion?
So moved. That we
Second.
adopt the budget as set forth.
Motion made by Commissioner Laird, second by Commissioner Milne. Discussion? All right, no discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
So we don't have to bring this big book back with us anymore, do we?
No, you can go put it away. Okay, we'll open up to public comment.
Evening, Commissioners. Judy Jones, 335 North 8 Mile. Shame on ya, especially you, Peter. You do not run this board. That is his job, okay? You need to learn your place. He has as much power as he has as much power. He has as much power. Nobody's above anybody else, first off. Secondly, I watched you guys on television today, or on the internet, about the variance. Dallas, you're 100% right. Nobody will ever meet those 7 stupid criterias to get a variance. And non-conforming use is not grandfathered use. They're 2 separate meetings, 2 separate definitions, and I can show you the page in the state law under grandfathering. If you'd like a copy, I'll bring you another one. Just because you change the words on something doesn't mean it changes the definition. And I took a trip out to Dome Lane today, and I took some pictures and some videos. It's a poop hole, okay? If this guy was gonna build a building out there, it would have done 100% improvement to what's out there. And the second thing, just because somebody moves in a nice trailer next door to somebody's property, does not mean I have to change my life because they want to do something different, and they don't like what's next door. I went through this in court, okay? You know what's next door to you when you buy a piece of property. If you don't like it, don't buy the property, okay? And I called Sharon Hubbard and talked to her for about 45 minutes, and she told me a little bit of history of the neighborhood, that she'd been out there 20 years and all of this stuff, and lo and behold, what does she have going on out there? She's got a nice big old building sitting on the corner there for rent, and she's got her house next door to it. So what would be the difference for Paul, the gentleman that wanted the variance, to build a shop, to store his vehicles, and slap up a better trailer than that's out there? What's out there, you may as well just get a torch and cut it up and mow the lawn. It would probably be a nice little piece of property. She said it's worth about 40 to 50,000. But that's kind of where I'm at on this. Nobody's ever going to meet this variance. Why have it in the definition book if you're not going to use it? You can't pick winners and losers on their properties, Lance. This is how you guys landed in court last time, was trying to pick winners and losers about what people do with their properties. I came here tonight to talk about the solar panels going up out there in Bar None. They're non-recyclable. South Dakota, was it? Baseball-sized hail smashing into panels. 150-mile-an-hour destroyed Scotts Bluff solar farm. That's what's going to happen in Barnett for your $280 million project. And you know where they're going to land? They're going to land in a landfill where there's, what, 1,800 wind tower blades right now? What are we going to do with this stuff, guys? You know, if I called tomorrow and said I want to put a windmill on my land for some big company, do you know they'll pay me $100,000 a year? I said, I want 10. Okay, this is a moneymaker. This is what it is. It's about money. It's not about making energy or producing better outcomes for our people. I mean, hell, we got enough natural gas and fuel under our feet to take care of us for the next 400 years. If we tell Biden to go, pound sand and let him take us to court and start drilling and filling and taking care of this state. Okay, I'm really upset with you guys today over this, let's change horses in midstream and change the rules. I would have applied for planning and zoning, but I knew this kind of thing was gonna happen. You guys were gonna try to get your buddies in there so you guys can keep going. I know the good old boy system. You guys have been doing it for 20 years on this panel. Not you personally, but It seems to be a habit. You get a little power, you get drunk on it, and all of a sudden, everybody else is beneath you. But anyway, back to the variance. You guys need to address this. I don't want to see this put off anymore. It should be addressed that, that's what you do. You talk, you're all talk. Blah, 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 we're going to take care of it. And then when you have a chance to deal with it like you did today, you blow it off and shove it somewhere else. Why? Why not take care of it right now? Pull a little Christie up here, find out what's wrong with the planning and zoning. He's got a list. I have a list. Let's compare a list and fix the damn thing. Period. This is month 7. You still haven't adopted the resolution rewrite properly. So you're running on an illegal plan as it is for your rewrite. Check that out, Heather, would you? Because they didn't do the 45 days. Eric said he posted it, but it was never in the paper of record or anywhere else. So, anyway, with that, I'll calm down, but you 2 are right, you 3 are wrong, and I'm gonna vote against your ass next round.
Judy, before you leave, I'm going to ask one last time that when you come up here, there's no attacks upon any commissioners, and you
That's
need,
not in any rules.
right at the back of the room.
Bill, it's not against the law.
Right at the back of the room.
It's not against the law. You 3 are a disgrace.
And your foul language also needs to stop.
Horses are called asses, too.
Rosemary Saban, 9460 West Sewer Road. I heard it said in today's work session that attention to the fact that 42 people didn't speak against a variance, but attention to well over 100 people attending the land use adoption was not, with not one speaking in favor, was ignored on its illegal adoption. The criteria for a variance on a setback has been granted for a sports complex for the city, which seldom grants any since they were referenced. A conditional use permit was granted for on-the-hook towing for a car crusher in an area surrounded by ag production, shallow water table, irrigation water, and domestic water, etc. Ag land southeast of the airport was rezoned to commercial for speculative purposes. Again, zoning needs to be limited to only that which creates a financial burden on the residents, to answer your question on whether I believe in zoning or not. The land use plan was said that its purpose was to reduce and simplify, to be less restrictive. There's a land use plan issue or a planner issue, to be sure, possibly both. A professional planner with credentials told you as much December 20th. Changing words such as grandfather does not change facts. Many other cities and counties have much less intrusive rules, and people get along rather well. Ultimately, that is the purpose for the legal system and accountability. You've had nearly 7 months and time at today's work session to work out some of these issues, yet it's being pushed down the road. Your need for uniform code of conduct to cover behavior that is not uniformed is an overreach of power, period. Your inability to make logical decisions speaks very strongly on your incompetence, though. Thank you.
Anyone else for public comment? Okay. Commissioner comments, Commissioner Milne. Commissioner Nicolason.
I hope that folks driving around our wonderful state and enjoying the sights and scenery and traveling through pay attention to the quickly growing fire hazard with all the fuel and the vegetation out there. So please be careful. And we suffered a lot of damage last year in this entire community from wildfires, and it puts a burden on those emergency service responders from, all over the county. So avoid the mistakes and, watch your fires and your cigarettes. Thanks.
Commissioner Laird.
I don't have anything.
Commissioner North. Okay, and I have nothing myself. So we will stand in adjournment.